Hello, Andy. I'm so happy that you're asking questions about what our favorite album was of the last year that we have been playing over and over and over again. I'm going to say that for me, with 2020 being as jarring, as scary, as painful, and as lonely as it was, I found a lot of happiness and joy um, and connection to the Beyonce album, The Lion King, The Gift. Um, it, for me, was very different from what I've heard her do before. And I've never really been one that has, downloaded a Beyonce album and played it over and over and over again. In her past solo albums, there have been songs that I've loved on each album and therefore downloaded those and played those over and over again. But this album for me, from start to finish, it was a connection. It was a connection that was very deep and something I needed last year. Um, as you can hear from my accent, everyone that's watching this, Andy, you obviously know, I am British born, but I am of Nigerian descent. Nigeria is in Africa. And I listened to various African artists growing up, just from what my mother used to play in the house. And I kind of, really sort of got connected to those artists. They tended to be, sort of the rural artists that played a lot of music that were for groups, or it was group music. Like if I could sing some to you now, I would. And in fact, if you want to, I will send some to you. But it was more community music, that obviously would have the sounds of the village, sounds of the people, sounds of the local instruments, etc., etc. They weren't necessarily songs that were played in the nightclubs, when I was growing up it wasn't being played in the Nigerian rural towns or in the capital city, but they were songs that were being played in the villages, by the DJs or by the women live there with the instruments, what's the cowbell, that type of thing, the drums and everything. These are songs that stayed in me and are really in my blood. When I heard the Beyonce album for the first time, I just sat and listened to everything and just loved the eclectic mix of the different artists. I love how clearly she and her husband, Jay, they are or were or have been on this journey to discover their roots as African American people, to discover what their African roots are. And I think that is something that a lot of African American people have been doing, going on that journey to find out where their ancestors came from. I am lucky, I would say, that I was born in London, but not just that my parents were part of the Windrush, which was something that happened in England in I think 60s and 70s, where people from Africa, people from Jamaica and the islands were invited, were welcomed, were asked to please come to England, come and help boost the economy. It was I think in some way a bit of a pardon, a beg for forgiveness in some way, shape, or form from the English government to apologise for their part in slavery, the slavery that did take part in England was on a far less scale than it did in America, but it did happen nonetheless. So I feel like Britain tried to sort of make amends in a way, and also wanted really to boost the economy, which they did. But they welcomed and wanted people specifically from the African countries, specifically from, the West Indies, Jamaica, or the other islands, to come not just to work, but also, yeah, come and go to our universities, go to our colleges, and a lot of the people that did that certainly went to school, went to university, went to college, got their further education, and then went back to their countries of origin, which is something my father did. My mother did her education but stayed in England, which is probably where she should have stayed, and she shouldn't have pursued continuing trying to figure out if this marriage was going to work, because it wasn't going to be working. But that was her journey that she had to go through. Regardless, if she hadn't sold everything and basically we all got plane tickets and we all flew back to Nigeria to go and continue our lives with my father, I would never really have had the experiences that I had living in Nigeria as a young girl and really experiencing that life as a local, not a visitor. That was my home. I was one of them because I am one of them. That's where my roots are. So I love that Beyonce and Jay-Z and many other African Americans are going on that journey to discover what their roots are. I think on one of the songs, on The Gift, I think Beyonce, sings that Jay-Z's his roots are in Rwanda, I think. I think that's where his ancestors are from, and he's a king. And this is how all of us should see our partners, you know what I mean? As kings and queens, special, beautiful, worthy of admiration, worthy of love, worthy of respect. That's how we are supposed to treat each other if we're in loving relationships. And then just the bare animal aspect of the music and just some of the beats, some of just I played that album over, and it was on repeat. Certainly it was on repeat in my car for a long while. And as you know, every Sunday, me and my husband and our kids would have a backyard summer jam, and we would live stream it. As soon as I was finished with the live stream, I would put the album on and it would be blasting out, to the whole neighborhood for everyone to hear. I still love that album. It is timeless. It is connected. It is spiritual. It is hot. It is exciting. And it's wonderful to celebrate not just the look of Africa, but the sounds of Africa through the African American, lineage. I love that. I love that. So that's my album of the year, for sure.